Trafalgar Square, where Adam Cherry joins us. Adam, look, thank you very, very much. Now, you were in Westminster earlier today. You're now at Trafalgar Square. Why are you there and what's been happening?
Well, Patrick, what's happened in the last hour or so is the main group from Parliament Square has dispersed, and they're now, you see behind me, these are now the diehards on Trafalgar Square chanting all the usual hits, the greatest hits. We've heard Israel is a terrorist state. We've heard, actually, one of the ones we just heard was Rishi Sunak is a waste man. The usual routine. I am surprised at how quickly things have changed in the last hour. As you say, when you were there earlier, that I think was at its peak. It was quite a hostile environment there, so to speak. And our colleague Martin Daubney was egged whilst he was standing there. Now it's a little bit quieter. But I must say, Patrick, also in the last few minutes, since we have been standing here, we've seen no less than 3 London bus drivers bib their horns in support of this group. Just extraordinary. These guys are paid for by the taxpayer. They work for TfL, and yet they're supporting this incredibly hostile and incredibly political group.
All right, look, Adam, thank you very much. Make sure you take care out there. I don't want you going the same way as Daubney, who's quite literally been left with egg on his face, unfortunately. That is Adam Cherry, who's out at Trafalgar Square for us. I was out and about earlier on today when things, I think, were a bit more heated, it's fair to say, outside Westminster. I'll bring you what happened there a little bit later on in the show. But let's go now to our political editor, Christopher Hope. And it's on days like this that he earns his money. Christopher, what the heck is going on?
Well, briefly, Patrick, today is one of the days when the SNP have control of the order paper. They have a debate on issues they want to have a debate on. They plan 2 today, one on Gaza and one on the £28 billion U-turn by the Labour Party on green spending. Both issues were designed to cause difficulties for the Labour Party. Don't forget, in Scotland, the SNP and Labour are going for it, hammer and tongs for seats. The Tories are a distant third. That's what happened, but all went wrong when Lindsay Hoyle thought he'd try and allow Labour MPs to vote for an option that wasn't there. He changed the rules in a sense like a referee changing the laws of football moments before a game starts, and that prompted the SNP and Tories to walk off and to leave the future of Lindsay Hoyle now hanging by a thread. Now, he started at 7 p.m. apologising. That wasn't enough for other MPs, and we'll see tomorrow how it plays out. But if you lose confidence of yourself in Parliament, then you don't last long here. 33 MPs have signed a petition, a motion in Parliament, saying they haven't got confidence in Lindsay Hoyle. Earlier, I spoke to John Healey, he's the Shadow Defence Secretary, about what on earth happened. Here's what he had to say. What on earth has happened in House of Commons tonight?
Well, this was a day we could have shown the best of the British Parliament coming together to demand an end to the fighting now in Gaza, much more aid into Gaza now, a release of the hostages now, and a ceasefire that could be observed by both sides and build into a lasting peace. Instead, we've shown Westminster at its worst, descending into a row about procedure, with the Conservatives boycotting their own vote, the SNP walking out on their own debate, and this has done nothing to help the Palestinians, and it's done nothing to advance the cause of peace.
Christopher, thank you very, very much. It's been great to have you right at the top of the show. We might end up going back to you as more drama unfolds. It's our political editor, Christopher Hope, there, who's been doing stellar stuff for us today. Look, I'm going to go now to Conservative MP Philip Davies. Philip, thank you very much. So, as we understand it, 33 MPs have essentially signed a letter of no confidence in the Speaker. Are you one of them?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't think that Lindsay Hoyle should go as Speaker. I think he made a bad decision today. I think he made an unjustifiable decision. I mean, I think, as Chris Hope basically said there, he decided to change the rules because he didn't think the rules were the right rules. And it's like a judge saying, I don't agree with this particular law, so I'm not going to apply it. The Speaker's there to apply the rules as they are, whether he likes them or not. And today he decided to change them. Now, whether it was for the right reasons, the wrong reasons, I've known the Speaker for many, many years. I find him a decent, honourable person. He's made a mistake here. If everybody who made a mistake in Parliament lost their job as a result of it, I'd have probably gone 19 years ago, Patrick. So I'm not going to rush to judgment on people. I think he's made a mistake. He came to the House and apologised, which is very, very big of him to have done that. Actually, not many people would have done that. And look, I think it was a bad day.
Just Philip, can I just ask? Obviously, most people would absolutely respect what you've said there. You know, you're an honourable guy and all of that stuff. But what is the real reason why he's done it? Do you think? Do you think it's that he caved into pressure from Labour and wanted to prop his mate up, or do you think he was genuinely afraid that Labour MPs might get attacked in the streets? I mean, either one, I would say, is pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think Labour did try and put intolerable pressure on the Speaker, one way or another. I mean, there was a rumour earlier that Nicholas Watt from BBC Newsnight, he said a Labour minister, a shadow minister, had said to him that they told Lindsay Hoyle that if he didn't agree to their motion, they'd remove him as Speaker after the election. Now, that's been denied by both the Labour Party and by the Speaker's office, so we've got to take that at face value. But I have heard from other Labour MPs in the division lobby earlier that they were basically saying to the Speaker that if he didn't allow the motion, then Labour MPs would be subject to abuse, intimidation, their security would be at risk. And the Speaker has been very big on MP security and very concerned about it. And so it's, has that played a part in the decision? I genuinely don't know, Patrick. I mean, I hope not, because that's mob rule.
It's mob rule. Exactly.
If we end up having decisions made in Parliament or we have MPs voting in Parliament, not for what they believe in, but in order to appease the mob, then we haven't got a democracy left, and that would be intolerable. But whatever the reason was, Patrick, he made a mistake. I think he now accepts he made a mistake, and I think on that basis we should move on.
Philip, look, thank you very, very much. Philip Davies there. Look, the reason why I've been so twitchy there is I've been getting running updates in my ear as to the number of people who have now signed this. Apparently we're up to, it was 37, now it's 38 people said that they have no confidence in Lindsay Hoyle. So look, those numbers are rising, of course. I think I'm right in saying as well, I'll go to my panel on this in a second, that when Burko went, I think it was up to 22. So there is a precedent here. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. It's senior political correspondent at the Daily Express, Christian Calgie. I've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and also, as well, I, of course, have author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Christian Calgie, Lindsay Hoyle, got to go?
It's up to MPs, frankly. Do they have confidence in him or not? And it might sound an obvious thing. I would say also the SNP as a party not supporting him is very significant, right? Because they're the third largest party. And if their leader isn't supporting Lindsay Hoyle, then that's more significant than a large number of Tory backbenchers. Yeah, exactly. So we will have to see whether this fizzles out tomorrow or whether it continues ramping up. But it's certainly not the last of it.
Burko went after 22.
No, it was Michael Martin who was the speaker during the expenses scandal in 2009, and 22 MPs signed an EDM against him, and he quit the next day.
There we go. Right. OK, thank you. I stand corrected on that. Adam, have we given it a mob rule here?
Yes, I believe so. To me, it looks like Labour. It's my opinion that Labour have bullied him into this decision. Keir Starmer has been let off an embarrassing rebellion from his own party, which would have torn Labour apart. I think the Speaker has embarrassed the UK Parliament. He has made a mistake. He has apologised. But I believe so much damage has been done to Parliament and to our democracy. He has to go. It's worrying. It's worrying. The state of UK politics at the moment is dire.
The reason I'm just checking my phone is I have just had a message from a Tory MP, who I will not name, who said that he's basically teeing off as we speak now on Keir Starmer and in particular Lindsay Hoyle, piling political pressure on Lindsay Hoyle, raising pointless points of order. He's just absolutely incensed about what's happening here. I mean, I'm sorry, Rebecca, but is this not just an insight into what a Labour government might look like? Caving into mob rule, piling pressure on a Labour speaker, potentially, although it's been denied, threatening to defrock him at the next election if he doesn't give in to this. Meanwhile, we don't have a ceasefire at all, do we? We don't have anything that looks like a ceasefire. People are still dying.
I don't think it has any real predictive value about what a Labour government would look like. I do think it is a very sad indictment of how much infighting and personal politics and people's own reputations have become the thing that they care about. And I looked at that room full of people with comfortable houses and comfortable lives, all acting like something terrible happened to them, or they're supposed to be there talking about children dying. And I just thought, you're all silly, and I hate all of you today.
I mean, that's strong. I agree with you. I agree with you because I think, any semblance that that vote anyway, and it was kind of people's front of Judea territory, wasn't it, really? Because the Tories wanted some form of ceasefire, the SNP wanted a slightly different form of ceasefire, and then Labour felt like they had to come up with a different ceasefire in order to make it look like they weren't giving
doesn't that make you hate the whole bloody lot of them?
Yeah, and then they walk out because of the Speaker. It's a complete circus. Just by the way, we're talking of mob rule. Here's Martin Daubney being egged. Oh, grief. Christian.
It's very important to remember that after all the heat and the shouting, what we saw today was 3 different parties playing irrelevant party political games to try and score cheap points against each other. You had the SNP wanting to debate a motion that would have made no difference to the conflict to embarrass Labour. You had a Tory party that put down a motion to try and embarrass Labour. And you had Sir Keir Starmer desperately trying to avoid up to 100 MPs rebelling and further front bench resignations. And in doing so, bent the arm of Lindsay Hoyle. Now, I put to you this. Lindsay Hoyle was weak today, and that's not a good thing. But ultimately, it was Labour and Keir Starmer that bullied him into doing this, right? Either they said they used the excuse of we'll get threatened and abused by the way, the same people that used to be supporting them.
Absolutely.
Or they supported entering the country over the last decade. Or they said, you know, at the next election, we'll get rid of you. Because I think ultimately Labour love to claim they play by the rules, but if the rules aren't ones that agree with them, they will change the rules.
Oh, I'm just having something in my ear. Apparently, The Guardian is reporting that 100 Labour MPs were ready to rebel today, apparently.
Well,
and Lindsay Hoyle has basically saved Keir Starmer from that.
That makes it even worse. You know, and what MPs have got to realise is we pay their wages. They're there to represent us. It doesn't matter if they're blue, red, yellow or what party they are. We pay their wages. We pay the Speaker's wages. They've got to grow up and start representing us. This is a joke.
I think that's their problem, is that a lot of them are representing a constituency where they feel very strongly that a ceasefire must happen. So they're trying to represent us. They're trying to do their jobs, and they were in an intolerable position themselves.
Labour tried to get the Muslim vote back. That's what they've tried to do.
That's a very, very broad brushstroke way of saying it, and I think to suggest that all Muslims think one way is fairly...
No, I didn't say that, Rebecca. But they've lost a lot of Muslim votes. They're trying to get them back.
I don't think they have lost.
I think it's going to be an incredibly tricky situation going forward.